Hi, everybody. This is Wisdom Cole. I am the National Organizing Manager for the NAACP Youth and College Division. Thank you so much for being here on this webinar on time. If you are here for the Mapping the Count webinar for our Census Week of Action, then you are in the right place. We're going to give it a couple more minutes to allow folks to join, but thank you so much for being here. Hello, everybody. Again, this is Wisdom Cole, the National Organizing Manager for the NAACP Youth and College Division, and welcome to the Mapping the Count webinar for the Census Week of Action hosted by the NAACP and Repowered. We are going to be having an amazing webinar tonight with amazing speakers. This is our webinar that is by our Racial Equity Anchor Partner Group, featuring groups such as Advancement Project, APIA Health Forum, Desmos, Faith in Action, the NAACP, obviously, the National Congress of American Indians, the National Urban League, Race Forward, and Unidos US. Before we get started, we're going to have an introduction by our host, Repowered. So I'm going to pass it on to the Executive Director of Repowered, Karundi Williams.
Thank you so much, Wisdom. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us for such an important conversation tonight. As Wisdom said, I'm the Executive Director of Repower, formerly known as Wellstone Action. Just to say a couple of lines about who we are, Repower is a national capacity building and training organization for the progressive movement. Since our founding, we are proud to say that we've supported over 100,000 candidates, elected officials, campaign managers, community organizers from across the country through training, coaching, facilitation, campaigning, and capacity building. We have transformed this organization to focusing on people of color, and we're proud to say we are training and giving folks the tools that they need to represent their communities. So we're just excited to be a part of this amazing conversation and this incredible group of organization that has come together for this project. Wisdom has mentioned several of the organizations that are part of the National Racial Equity Anchor Organizations. This collaborative of 9 leading national organizations supported by the Callout Foundation. Together, we work to promote racial equity advance racial healing, and ensure that all children, families, and communities have opportunities to reach their full potential. Tonight, you will hear a lot of information about how to get involved, a lot of information about making sure you're counted. So tonight's agenda will start with grounding us in a Census 101. We'll talk about Get Out the Count in action. We'll talk about the Mapping the Count project, and then we'll close with question and answer. So welcome again. I'm excited to be a part of this partnership, excited to host this amazing conversation, and I will just turn it back over to Wisdom.
Thank you so much, Karendi. I really appreciate that. So as Karendi said, the first part of our webinar is going to be a Census 101. And so we will be having Kaya Heron, who is the Government Affairs Liaison for the Fresno Metro Black Chambers of Commerce.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Wisdom and Karendi, for having me on tonight. I'm really happy to share information about the upcoming census and a little bit of background as to why it's so important for our communities. As Wisdom stated, my name is Kaya Heron. I'm the Government Affairs Liaison for the Fresno Metro Black Chamber of Commerce, and we are located in the city of Fresno and cover most of the county of Fresno and the Fresno metropolitan area, which encompasses about 7 counties. But we engage, educate, and empower small, diverse, and minority-owned businesses. We advocate for their interests, especially the interests of the greater African-American community, as well as provide educational programming for entrepreneurs of all ages and provide technical assistance services. And for small businesses, those technical assistance services include certifications for their disadvantaged business enterprises and minority business enterprises that are special designations for businesses of color. And so we understand that the census is supposed to be the most inclusive civic engagement activity in our country, and wanted to become involved because we know that we rely on census data for all of the grants that we fund, all of the grants that we apply for to gain funds, and in helping all of our businesses create their cases for why their business needs to be located where, and what kind of employees they should be going after, and the kind of clients that they will pursue. So census data is integral to the work that we do, and so being involved in the census was really important to us. And so for that reason, I became a part of the Fresno County Complete Count Committee and actually became chair of the committee. And we meet on a monthly basis and receive updates from our regional program manager and all of the other leaders in our region, including the county and our regional ACBO. The state of California has poured an unprecedented amount of money into the census effort. California is poised to lose a seat if we are not fully counted, and billions of dollars in resources. So it was very important to our governor and to all of our communities to have these resources be invested, knowing what the landscape looked at the federal level. So our meeting space is very important because we work with all of the organizations in our county to discuss outreach strategies, opportunities, and upcoming events, and really how we can support one another and each other, and identify any of the unmet needs that we have and possible solutions. The campaign that we are really happy to be a part of is the My Black Counts campaign. It's an education and awareness campaign that was born out of California Black Census Redistricting Hub, which is organized by California Calls. And it's a network of 30 Black-led and/or Black-serving grassroots community organizations. And we're working to ensure that everyone understands the importance of taking the census and how it impacts our daily lives. On the next slide, you can see some of the logos for the organizations that are part of our coalition, and they're educating our community throughout the state. And it's really important that African Americans in particular and Black people throughout the diaspora are counted in the census and counted properly. This is the first time in the history of the census that Black people are being asked where we come from, and being asked for our nationalities and our ethnicities, and whether or not we have Hispanic or Latino origin. And that's important when you have very large immigrant populations that need services in their language. So knowing how many Haitian Creoles that we have, or how many Nigerians or Ghanaians that we have, is really important because it changes the way that we live our lives and the services that we have access to. So we've organized a host of events over the last couple of months, including phone banking and canvassing and opportunities to fellowship with one another, recruit volunteers, and hosting press events. One of my favorite photos on this slide is our young people holding up the sign that says our future, because they really do understand that the census is about our future. So all that great background info, but what is the census? The census is an official count of all of the people that are living in the United States. So no matter your citizenship status or your visa status, as long as you were living in the United States on April 1st, 2020, you should be counted in the census. The census is conducted every 10 years, and it's mandated by our Constitution. And it's mandated because it determines the number of resources, funds, and elected representatives that each state and community receives. So we always pay our taxes to the federal government, and this is us getting that money back. In fact, it's over $875 billion in federal funding for public programs and infrastructure like our schools, our roads, hospitals, and public safety. And so the simple way to put it is the census is about power, it's about representation, but it's really about our future. The data that's collected in the 2020 census will be used all the way until the next decennial census, which will be in 2030. So for a lot of us, that's the foreseeable future, the time that we will be developing, the time that we're growing in careers or growing in families. It is our future, and it's happening right now. And that's important for any of the young people that are here on the webinar, but all of the young people throughout the United States, because 22.6% of the United States is under 18. This is funding that will shape their lives. And as we look to the future, 43% of millennials aged 22 to 37 are not white. So in 2020, as we take the census, we're setting the stage for our future. In 2030, we know that that is when all of the jobs that are susceptible to automation, rather that can be done by technology and not by humans, will be automated. And these are typically jobs that people of color, primarily African Americans and Latinos, are holding. So if we don't do the census properly, if we're not all counted, the funding that we need for education that would put us in jobs that will not be automated in 2030 would not be possible. And as we look to the future even further, in 2045, we know that the world will no longer be a majority white. It will be majority people of color. And if we're not in the position that we should be in 2030, we will not be prosperous in 2045, when the world will be us. So taking that into account and trying to do some of the math, every person that's counted in the 2020 census will be worth $2,000 a year for the next 10 years. So over those 10 years, each person will be worth $20,000. For a family of 5, that's $100,000. And I love this photo because it's the Jackson 5, so it's a simple 5 to remember. But for a family of 5, that's $100,000 that is not being brought to your community. That's not there for housing. That's not there to justify all of the resources that you need. And unfortunately, that's a historic trend. We have been missed since the very beginning of the census. But in 2010, we were missed in an egregious amount. Over 800,000 Black people were not counted in the last census, and it cost our communities over $16 billion in lost resources. So there's a couple of reasons why Black people were not counted at the rates that we should have been. And that's because we are determined to be hard to count by the federal government and by states that are doing this work. And there's a whole host of factors that make us hard to count, but the number one is us being African American. They have just not done a very good job of keeping track of Black people and people of color, period. But all of these other things are factors as well. So if there's a child that lives in your house that's under the age of 5, there's a chance that that child will not be counted. If you're a renter or you move frequently, then you may not be counted, or it may be difficult to count you. So being hard to count does not mean that you cannot be counted. Hard to count is a designation. It is not a determination. And anybody that has been designated as hard to count must make an effort to be counted. And so we know that the census is going to be offered primarily online. About 80% of it will be offered online. And that'll be very challenging for rural communities as well because of the lack of access to internet. So as you look at this list of hard to count factors, continue to think about that as well as you think about the geographies that you cover and the people that you connect with. So all in all, we must be counted. Our children and our families are disproportionately affected by poverty, and many of the federal programs that are designed to alleviate the impact of poverty are based in whole or in part on census-derived data. Those programs include Head Start, Child Care and Development Funds, SNAP, the National School Lunch Program, Medicaid, and programs for seniors. So what can you do? You can organize outreach programs and events. You can apply for census jobs. You can phone bank in Canvas, contact your local complete count committee, post and engage on social media, develop public service announcements, or if you're in California, text count to 97779. And that's the My Black Counts campaign number, and you'll be able to get updates on all of the information that's coming out through the campaign. But in all of these ways that you can get involved, continue to refine your message and make sure that you're reaching your target population. So when you look at your strategies and events, you can always incorporate census into anything that you're already doing. It's easy to show a video. There's plenty of resources that the United States Census Bureau has put out and other campaigns that are localized or very specific to our population. Emphasize funding for education, clean water, healthcare facilities, and firefighters. These are messages that were tested and proven to be effective with communities of color by the United States Census Bureau when they did their census message testing program. These are the things that matter to all of us and are consistent across all demographics through the United States, but really resonate with Black people. You can partner with your library and local schools to host events. Most of our libraries have computers that are available for public use, and you will be able to access the census website from the library computer. So maybe partner with your library and have a day of action where people actually come in and fill out the census. And do the same with your local schools to host events. Engage kids and focus on the entire family by providing activities for everyone. And consider food. It's really hard to have people come out to an event after a full day of work and after taking care of their kids and not having something to eat. So consider that as you're planning events and make it a part of your strategy if you are going to partner with anyone else. And then present at churches on Sunday and share census information after service. You can do a table or you can just stand in the foyer, but make sure that everyone that was there knows about it. And last but not least, one of my favorites is holding house meetings. It's getting together about 5 to 10 people and having either dinner or a meal and just having the conversation about the census, why it's so important, and creating advocates. Every person that attended that meeting should be able to leave and tell someone else why the census is important, how you can complete it, and what it will do for our future. And most importantly, be creative. You are the masters, you are the knowledge keepers, you know what it is that is going to be effective. Use your creativity, your skill, and your knowledge to reach out to the people that matter the most. So when is it all going to happen? The Census 2020 timeline is fastly approaching. It's right here. On March 12th through the 20th, we're going to receive invitations to fill out the census in the mail. It'll come in the form of a postcard and we'll have a QR code and or a link where you'll be able to follow. And each household should be receiving an individualized link. If you haven't responded to that, they'll send you another reminder the week of the 16th through the 24th. And if you don't respond to that one, they will send you another reminder. And at this point in March 26th through the 3rd, if you haven't responded in the first two, there are certain census tracts that will receive bilingual census questionnaires. So you may get a census questionnaire in English and Spanish, or you'll just get it in English. But on that third reminder, they will be sending you a paper form. And then April 1st is Census Day. And this is just the official day that we're marking the census. You can continue to fill out the census even after Census Day. And after April 20th, census enumerators will actually start going out to people's homes, knocking on doors and asking people to fill out the census. And so I will add as a caution for any of our families and any of our community members that may be living in mixed status households, the safest way to protect ourselves is to make sure that we fill out the census ourselves. So there's no reason for anyone to come knock on the door. So make sure that you fill out your census questionnaire, and you can fill it out in 3 different ways. You can do it online, which is the preferred method and how you will receive all of your information first, or you can fill it out by mail and you can request a paper questionnaire if that's the way that you'd prefer to do it. Or you can call the number that will be on the postcard to fill out the census questionnaire by phone. If you do complete the census online or by phone, you will have multiple options for language. There's 13 that are being offered where you will be able to receive services in those 13 languages. There are 59 language guides that will help someone fill out the form online. So that's all I have for you on Census 101 and how you're going to be able to fill out the form. And as a reminder, our youth are a source of knowledge and a wealth of knowledge. And they know that their Black counts. And they know it counts for so many different reasons, because justice, economic development, education, healthcare, energy, sustainability, but most importantly, our shared future. So reach out and get connected. Find the resources that you will need the most. The United States Census Bureau has partnership specialists all over the United States that are responsible for doing outreach to their communities. Ask them to come out and speak at events. You should also reach out to your local Complete Count Committee. You can go to the United States Census Bureau website and find your local Complete Count Committee contact information there. Reach out to your county board of supervisors, your county board of education, your cities and municipalities, but most importantly, reach out to our community. It's been proven time and time again in the research that the most effective way to share the message of the census is by talking to someone that you trust and that you know. So as soon as you're empowered with the information, share it with others. If you'd like more information, please visit the myblackcounts.com website for more information about the campaign. Go to the census.gov website for official information from the United States Census Bureau. If you're in California, you can go to the census.ca.gov to see the unprecedented investment and the resources that are available there. And lastly, if you'd like more information about my organization, you can go to fmbcc.com. So thank you so much for your time. And I'm really looking forward to all of you being engaged in the count.
Thank you so much, Kai, for that amazing
You can open the back.
about 101. This is really important. I've gotten a couple questions from people asking if they're going to be able to get this presentation afterwards, and the answer is yes. So tomorrow on our website, myfamilycounts.org/mapthecount, this presentation will be posted. So you can receive that copy there. But thank you again, Kai, so much for that information on Census 101. I really love what you talked about in terms of being creative and getting creative with the way that we're spreading the census. So our next part of our webinar is actually going to talk about how to do Get Out the Count in action. And so next up, we have Yasmin Naboa, who is a senior fellow at Count the Nation, who's going to talk a little bit about how we can get out the count.
Hi, my name is Yasmin Naboa, and I am with Count the Nation. And our focus is on Gen Z and how to use social media to create activism. Next slide. So who is Count the Nation? We are an initiative of the USC Annenberg Innovation Lab, which is nestled under the USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism. Our initiative has two different avenues that we communicate outwards. So one is to the right, which is called the Youth Complete Count, where we work with organizations such as the NAACP to promote and create content underneath the hashtag #StandUpBeCounted. Additionally, we have our own social media channels where we post directly to our Gen Z audience, again, using the same hashtag, #StandUpBeCounted, as part of our digital media movement. Next slide. So part of our initiative is to really talk to Gen Z youth regarding census, but to the issues that affect them most. So all of our content, whether it's videos, memes, TikToks, are centered around messaging that is to this particular demographic of either students in middle school, high school, college, or recently graduated from college. So for this particular video series, we focus on college facts. So how are you counted if you live in the dorms? How are you counted if you live in student housing, but it's off campus? So these are the types of questions that we answer in this particular video series. Next slide. Additionally, a lot of Gen Z students wonder if they can participate in the census, because oftentimes they get a little bit confused about civic action, and they associate voting with being 18. And as a result of that, they sometimes become confused and think that in order to participate in the census, they also have to be 18. So we created an entire video series, again, focused on if you're under the age of 18, can you participate? Next slide. In understanding that our nation is so multicultural, we've also decided to create a lot of content in various languages. So Spanish, Korean, Japanese, Tagalog, and Mandarin. So again, video series that are in native language to those particular demographics. Next slide. So part of our initiative is to not only promote Gen Z, the Gen Z population to create their own content on social media, we are also reaching out to influencers, activists, and actors to also use their particular audience to promote other people's posts as well as to promote their own posts and educate their audiences about census. So in this particular slide, on the left-hand side is Sky Jackson. She's a big Disney star, so she came on board and helped us with a couple of posts and also filmed a PSA with us. Joshua Rush is in the middle. He created a bunch of posters about census and participation. He's a youth activist attending NYU. This particular post received over 66,000 likes within 24 hours after he posted. So again, it kind of shows you the impact that this particular demographic can have with getting out the messaging about why the census is important. And in the top right-hand corner is a young actor who is on Jane the Virgin, or was on the Jane the Virgin series. So again, our focus is on outreaching to this particular influencer demographic as well, to not only post, but to repost and retweet items that we are creating and putting up on social media as well. Next slide. So this slide is awesome because it shows you some of the content that our high school students are making. So what I mentioned before is there are key points about the census, whether it's congressional seats, money and power. How do these messages get translated by youth and then recommunicated outwards in their language to their peer group? So this is an example of what resonates to this particular demographic. So a lot of fun memes in here, in particular, videos, etc. Next slide. This particular page is more focused on graphics. So a lot of kids are creating posters, stickers, again, selfies. It's so easy just to take a picture of yourself and or a group of friends and put text on top of it to indicate why census is important to you, or why you count, and why your voice matters. Next slide. So now it's time to create your own content. It literally takes less than 10 minutes to post something, to figure out what you want to say. So on the next slide, we lead you through what that process is on our website at countthenation.org. So when you log in, this is our homepage. Right up front, we have a call out to create your own movement. You hit the now button. Next slide. And that brings you to a step-by-step process and how you can create your own content. So in this particular instance, we show you as the user some examples of what other people have created. Next slide. From there, we ask you to pick a topic centered around money or power, and we've created an infographic that is approximately 6 to 7 steps or call outs that explain how the census works. From there, you decide what you want to create. So it can be an image, a selfie, a TikTok video, an Instagram post. You can create a meme or a GIF. So once you do that, then you're ready for the next step. Next slide. So from here, once you've created your digital asset, it's time to post it on your preferred channel. So whether it's Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat, you decide. The key thing is to make sure that you use the appropriate hashtags so that you'll participate in our digital movement. So these are the 3 hashtags that need to be in your post when you publish it live. So hashtag 2020 census, hashtag stand up be counted, and hashtag count the nation 2020. Next slide. Additionally, all of our social media channels have a lot of information about the census. So we publish content twice daily on our Instagram account and Twitter account. These are our main accounts, followed by TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. So if at any time you want to see examples of what other people are posting or to gain information, our social media channels, in addition to our website, are the main sources of information. Next slide. So now it's time. It's time to create your own content, have fun, get it up there. You know, shout out to your friends and family why census is important and why participation is so important to our communities. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email us. You can either reach out to Darvel, Jeanette, or myself. And we look forward to finding your content online with the hashtag #StandUpBeCounted. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jasmine, for that very informative presentation and really encouraging our young people to be creative as we are getting out the count. Again, this presentation will be shared tomorrow on our site, makemyfamilycount.com/mapthecount. So next, you may be asking yourself, you know, why is it important for young people to be involved in complete count committees? Why is it important for young people to understand about the census? And so we actually have Kayla Ireland, who's the 2nd Vice President of Waterbury NAACP Youth Council, to talk a little about that and what they're doing in their city.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Good evening. Like Wisdom said, my name is Kayla Ireland. I am the 2nd Vice President of the Waterbury Pride NAACP Youth Council, and I'm here to tell you why the Complete Count Committee is so important and why it's important for youth to be on it. The Complete Count Committee is important because some, if not most people, don't know what the census is and how important it is. The Complete Count Committee is to make sure that everyone in the city is counted, and it's usually made up of trusted people in the community like pastors, city leaders and officials, teachers, nonprofits, and organizations, because the Census Bureau is looking to us to let people know that the census is safe, fast, and important. And it's so important for youth to be a part because not only are we being educated, but we can also go on and educate ourselves, educate our peers, our families, and especially other adults, and let them know how important it is to really complete the census. And because of the count committee here in Waterbury, the Youth Council were able to get involved. We hosted info sessions, we canvassed, we went to daycares, housing units, and we also entered into a slogan contest that we actually won. And 98 won't do, you count too, was the slogan that won, and we chose that slogan because we wanted it to be easy for people to get to the point, and we just wanted everyone to know that everybody needs to be counted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kayla, for sharing that and the work that you are doing with the Waterbury Youth Council. We love to see it. We love to see young people being a part of complete count committees and ensuring that everybody in their community gets counted. So next, what we're going to talk about is mapping the count. So the NAACP has a few goals for this 2020 census. One is to uplift the 2020 census messaging and framing. 2 is to shape the census debate through civic engagement marketing and public relations and communications. 3 is to deliver public education and advocacy mobilization trainings. 4, to produce mobilization and advocacy efforts. And 5, to increase participation in communities of color in the census count. Essentially what this means is that we want to make sure that everybody is counted because everybody is important. Everybody needs to be counted. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing several trainings, several in-person convenings to make sure folks are educated and informed about the census. We also want to make sure that we are affecting the debate that is happening by the census to ensure that our communities are counted. So what that looks like is our Census Week of Action that we had this week. And if you were participating in that, thank you so much for that. What we did on Monday is we had a Twitter town hall. And if you did miss that, I would encourage you to go visit our Twitter at NAACP and check out the conversation that was had by trusted partners and people in the community. It was hosted by our very own Eljoy Williams, who is the president of the Brooklyn branch NAACP. We also had Alvina Ye, who is executive director of APALA. We also had Dewana Thompson, who's the creator of Woke Vote, and we had Myra Marcia, who's executive director of Latino Victory Fund. It was a great conversation, a lot of great points about why the census is important, a lot of great things about the hard to count communities and why it's important to map the count. And so definitely go to our Twitter to check that out. On Tuesday, we actually posted some demands in terms of what we are looking for from the U.S. Census, particularly around the U.S. Postal Service and fully supporting the 2020 census. You can go out to our website and check out what our demands were and essentially how you can participate. There are very easy ways to participate by tweeting out simple statements and ensuring that we have full support for the 2020 census. Last but not least, on Monday, we also put out a guidebook to kind of talk about mapping the count, why mapping the count is important, how to use certain tools to map the count. And or I'm going to talk about that in a second in terms of why hard to count communities are important to count and why that happens. So how we define hard to count communities. The first way we define that is by mail return rate. So we're looking at, hey, when we're looking at communities and how they return mail, right? If they are returning it less than a 73% or lower, that means it is a hard to count community. The next defining factor is low response score, right? So there's a bunch of different issues, there's a bunch of different areas where we look in terms of low response, looking at things such as internet access, looking at things such as when people are available at home. There's a plethora of different data points, but basically looking at, hey, do they have a low response score? Basically what we do from there is we do an overlap of that and we say, hey, okay, looking at the mail return rate, looking at the low response score, how are these communities harder to count, right? If they have a score of 30 or greater, that means that they are a harder to count community. And so essentially what we want to do, instead of having to look through all that data and ensure, hey, this is hard to count because of this and hard to count because of that, we have basically been able to put that together in a very advanced form called the ArcGIS. And so what we're actually doing for our Census Week of Action is we are giving out free ArcGIS licenses for 1 year to trusted partners. And so if you go to our website, makemyfamilycount.org/mapthecount, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can look and request a ArcGIS license. If you are part of a state conference, if you are a unit in the field, if you are a youth council, if you are a college chapter, I would encourage you to talk to your state conferences and ensure you can get access to your ArcGIS map, because with the ArcGIS map, you can check out what are the areas that are hard to count in your community, in your city, in your state, all around you, all around the country, to ensure that we are getting out the count the best way possible. It's a really great model that we can use to ensure that, hey, if there is not a complete count committee in a particular area, how can we reach that area and ensure that people are getting counted and have the information to make sure that they're filling out the census, right? Earlier, Kaya told us the multiple ways to start a complete count committee. She also shared different ways that people can fill out the census, and simple information like that people do not know. So we are actually giving out 200 named users, 150 desktop users, and 1,000 online community users, right? Another way that we're actually going to be allowing folks to map the count is through a system called Caspio. And so we will promote and offer 2 different platforms through ArcGIS platforms. In addition to our ArcGIS mapping system, we also will be doing some special outreach and some special convenings. And so through our Anchor Collaborative group, who is funding and sponsoring this webinar, we're going to be doing some multiracial train the trainers and census GOTV events in Florida and Michigan. In the Florida census events, it's going to be led by Faith in Action and Unidos US. This is going to be a first training expected on March 5th in Broward County. There's also going to be some webinars, so definitely stay tuned for that if you are based in Florida. If you are in Michigan, there are going to be events led by the NAACP and Faith in Action. The first training is going to be expected around April 1st to the 4th. There are going to be some webinar trainings, and we will have our first convening through the month of May. So a lot of people ask me, hey, Wisdom, where can I get resources or toolkits or guides to ensure that we are making sure that everybody's counted? And so through our website and our Anchor Collaborative group, we have makemyfamilycount.org. There is branding, prints, and creative and social media toolkits that you can use. There are GIFs, there are pictures, there are print signs that you can put on t-shirts. All that great stuff is found on that website. It is translated into multiple languages. And if you have any questions about that, definitely contact our partner, Elena Needles. Her email is eneedles@unidos.org. If you, again, are looking for mapping tools, definitely go check out our website. Same core link, but except you're going to put a /map the count, right? If you have any question about our mapping tools, definitely contact Jamal Watkins, our VP of Civic Engagement. His email is jwatkins@naacpnet.org. Earlier, we heard from Yasmin, who talked about the creative ways of using social media for the upcoming census. And so they have a Creatives for the Count toolkit that you can download. It has a bunch of memes, it has a bunch of GIFs, it has a bunch of opportunities or ways to really engage people around the census in a fun way. So I would encourage you to download that, use that, post that on your social media, send it to your friends, send it to your family, send it to your aunties, uncles, everybody in your community to make sure that they are getting counted for the upcoming census. We also have the general information, as Kaya shared earlier. Census.gov is also the best way to get information. It has the most up-to-date information. If you're looking for where complete count committees are in your city, in your state, in your local area, maybe you're on a college campus and you're like, hey, I want to make sure my college campus has a complete count committee. You can find it on that website. If there's not one, we definitely encourage you to create one and share with us. Let us know that you're actually doing a complete count committee so we can feature you, so we can highlight you, so we can make sure that we're uplifting the work that you're doing in the field. A lot of people ask me, hey, Wisdom, where can I get a job with the census? Again, go visit census.gov/jobs, right? Even my little sister, who is 19 years old, got a job there. It's a great opportunity to be civically engaged and ensuring that people are getting counted, but also to get paid for the work that you're doing. Actually, on our last webinar, we got a question about, hey, how do you talk to immigrant families about the census and the question of status, right? So again, there will not be any question about status, but if you're interested in thinking about ways to talk to immigrant families about the upcoming census, I would encourage you to visit United We Dream's website. They have a site called WeCountCensus.com, which has a lot of graphics, toolkits, opportunities for you to be able to talk to immigrant families about the upcoming census. Again, I encourage you, if there is not a complete count committee in your area, on your campus, wherever you're living, we encourage you to create one. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to us. So we're reaching the end of our webinar, and so we have about 15 minutes or so for question and answer. And so if you are on the online platform, you have the opportunity to drop a question in the question box. You have an opportunity to raise your hand. And so I'm going to look at some of the questions that are asked. If you have a question you want to speak live, I definitely will unmute you and allow you to ask that question live. But we're going to go into our Q&A session now. So I saw a question that says, can youth under 18 actually help register people for the census, or are we just focusing on spreading awareness? So youth under 18 can definitely help spread awareness. So in terms of jobs, you definitely want to check out what that looks like. But in terms of census awareness, that's what this campaign is, right? It's making sure everybody is aware of the census and making sure that they can get counted, right? When we think about the census, people ask, hey, who gets counted? That's everybody. So no matter who's living in your house on April 1st, they get counted. If they're people who are sleeping on your couch, people who are aunties and uncles, people who may be there for a short period of time, if they're in your place on April 1st, they count. Babies who are just born, they also count. And so if you are under the age of 18, you can ensure that people are counted. You can also be part of complete count committees. And so definitely if you're under 18, you can participate. I got a question that said, can refugees do volunteer work on the census? Yes, refugees can definitely do work on the census. Again, everybody counts. Everybody can support the census work. Everybody can be a part of ensuring that everybody's counted. We need everybody's support and everybody's help to make sure that we count our whole community. Are the youth and college divisions of the state using the same accounts for mapping as adults, or are we making our own? So if you are part of a youth and college chapter, if you're part of a youth council, if you're part of a youth and college state, we definitely encourage you to collaborate with your state. So again, this is a collaborative effort. We definitely want to make sure that folks are able to work together to ensure that they are counting their communities. And so we would encourage you to work with your state to request a license and to work with them to ensure, hey, how can we identify where are the hard to count communities? All right, I'm going to go to our attendees list. If you would like to raise your hand, I will unmute you and let you ask a question live on the webinar. I also see some conversations in the chat. So do I hear that children under 5 years old do not count? So again, everybody counts. Everybody counts, no matter their age, no matter where they work, no matter what size they are, no matter whatever factors, everybody counts. So if they are living in your house, April 1st, Census Day, they count in the census. All right, I'm going to open it up to our lines. Would anybody like to ask a question live on our webinar tonight? I see a lot of young people. I see some advisors. I see some people who are collaborators and partners. So thank you again for being on this webinar. But does anybody have questions about the upcoming census or anything that was presented on tonight's webinar? Any last questions? I see Joy said, I love the idea of doing a program to make people aware. Yes, again, as Kaya said earlier, definitely be creative. Think about ways that you can encourage people to fill out the census. What I really, really love about Count the Nation and what they're doing with their social media campaigns, they're definitely highlighting how easy it is to fill out the census. The census is only 10 questions. 10 questions, you can definitely do that in your sleep. And so, again, think about simple ways. I like the idea of doing house parties, ways to bring people together. Hey, we're gonna come together. We're all gonna fill out the census and enjoy time together. Door knocking, making sure that people can understand what's happening at the census. I see that Joyce shared, we have a youth leadership summit coming up. So we will definitely try to have youth do visual videos. Yes, I love it. Definitely do visual videos, post it, tag us, tag Count the Nation. We will repost y'all to kind of uplift the message that you are doing, but definitely want to make sure that people are participating and actively getting out, because the more we're able to talk about the census, the more we're able to reach people, right? We think about the idea of relational organizing and ensuring that people are organizing through the people they know in their community, right? You are able to reach people a lot better than me, particularly from the nation, from a national perspective. But if you know people in your community, that's definitely a great way to ensure that they are heard and counted. All right, I see Isaac, who is raising up their hand. I'm going to unmute you. Hey, Isaac, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, thank you so much for letting me go online. And I am the one who actually asked about the refugee being able to volunteer for the census. I'm actually working with a nonprofit. I am a director, and we are trying to make sure if really refugees can participate in providing any services or even get a job working for the census, because we actually have heard a lot of information that's made us in too much confusions. So I just want you guys to clarify this for us, so we may be able really to make sure we support what we are trying to do.
Thank you for that question. So again, I would definitely check out the United We Dreams website. They have a whole toolkit and information about talking with immigrants and refugees. And so that's a really great resource. But in terms of spreading information about the census, right, again, like I said earlier, everybody counts. And so we definitely want to make sure that everybody gets the word out. And so if you are part of a refugee community, you know, folks who are refugees or people who want to do the work, definitely encourage them to spread the information, to be part of this process, to make sure that everybody gets counted, because this is money that's going to be in our community for the next 10 years, even thinking about the people who are not even born yet, right? This is going to affect them. And so definitely encouraging them to be a part of that. In terms of getting a job, I feel like that's a different question. And so I definitely would visit the census.gov/jobs website to see if there are opportunities for refugees. But thank you so much for that question.
All right, thank you so much for your answer.
All right, any other hands up? Let me see. Anybody else has a question? I do not see any other hands up. Any questions in our Q&A? Let's see, I see a question. How are y'all collaborating with the NAACP in your neighborhoods? And so that's a really, really great question. Some things that I'm seeing on the national level is that I'm seeing that people are also holding census informational opportunities and meetings where they're inviting the community. People are door knocking, people are meeting people where they're at, people are ensuring that people have the opportunity to fill out the census, people are opening up computer labs, people are having census parties in their homes, right? People are thinking about what are ways to strategize to make the census easier for everybody, right? Recognizing that everybody might not necessarily have internet access. Everybody might not be able to do that in that easy way. And so how can you as an activist, as an organizer, as an advisor, make it easier for people to be counted? I see a question that says, how can we fill out the census online? Is there a website to go to, or will we be emailed? Let me see, is Kaya, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Do you mind answering that question?
Yes. So starting the second week of March, the United States Census Bureau will begin sending postcards in the mail. And on that postcard, there will be a QR code and a link to the website to complete the census questionnaire. There will also be a phone number on it, so you can call and either request a paper questionnaire or you could complete the census over the phone. But you will receive a postcard in the mail. That's going to be your invitation.
Thank you so much, Kaya. I see a question. Taj from Staten Island, what's up? It's good to hear from you. Are youth councils okay to partner with other nonprofit agencies and or local CBOs? Yes, definitely partner, definitely collaborate, definitely work with all the resources necessary. We want to ensure that everybody gets counted, right? If we think about our work as a network, right, the more and more people we collaborate, the more and more people we can touch, right? Oftentimes the same people hear this information over and over again. And so we want to make sure that everybody has access to that. And so let's definitely strategize, be creative, and think about ways in which we can make sure that everybody gets counted. But thank you so much for that question. I'm going to see if anybody else has questions. I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. All right, can teens fill out the census form? So with the census form, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kaya, with the census form, that's definitely within a family unit.
Yep. So we're playing it a little loose with the word family. I think the word household applies because, with the housing crisis, there's a lot of people who are living multiple families in one household, or if you live with a roommate. So it's really about measuring your household. And if you are the person in your household who'd be able to fill out the form, then yes, you can complete it. But it's normally the head of the household, so whoever's in charge. Hope that makes sense.
Perfect, right? So we're looking at it from a household perspective, right? So regardless of if people are family members, regardless if people are related, right? You think about it from the idea of the head of a household or one person within the household will fill out the census form. I have a question. Does census work count towards the 6 game changers, and can it be submitted for awards at nationals? Yes, it definitely can be. So definitely would submit that under our civic engagement game changer. I know a lot of folks within the New York State Conference have been working on census. I know there have been a lot of people out there starting complete count committees. And so I definitely would include that in your civic engagement game changer if you plan to apply for an award. We definitely would love to see it because, again, this is a big census year. Or the census year, to speak. Any last questions? Thank y'all so much for participating. I do not see any hands up. I do not see any questions in the chat. I see, all right. So if the head of the household should we not be doing this on college campuses since it's only for the head of the household? Sorry, just one clarification. This is a great chat. So the clarification that I've gotten about that, right? So if you are on a college campus, right, depending on your, and that's why it's also very important to think about starting complete count committees on your college campuses, right? As a college student, sometimes the college that you are at will give the information to the census, but also there's been this question about, you know, depending on where your taxes go to. What I've been told is that you get counted at where you're at on April 1st. And so if you're a college student, you should be counted on your campus, right? If you are the head of a household, right, and you live in a particular area that is outside of the college campus, you'd be counted at that area. But thank you so much for that question. All righty, it seems like we are going to be wrapping up our call for tonight, but thank you so much for participating, for being on our webinar tonight. I want to thank all of our speakers for helping us and informing us about Census 101, about different ways to get on a count, ensuring that we are having young people part of our complete count committees. Again, we want to know that my family matters, my family counts. The Census 2020 is very, very important. There's so much money for our communities. We want to make sure that everybody's counted, but we definitely want to make sure that the hard to count communities get counted. Again, I definitely want to encourage y'all to visit our website at makemyfamilycount.org/map-the-count. Definitely apply to get a ArcGIS license so we can track our hard to count communities. If you are starting complete count committees, definitely let us know. Definitely share that with us. Sorry, I saw one more question. It says, how do we ensure that you are counted on your campus, right? So again, that takes making sure the folks who are your administration are accountable to ensuring that they're submitting the accurate information, right? That's why starting a complete count committee is very, very important. If you have any questions about how to start one, definitely feel free to contact us. If you actually go to the census website, there's instructions about how to start that, but that's definitely making sure you are working with the locally elected officials, you're working with your campus to ensure that they are ensuring that everybody on your campus is getting counted. So that's definitely a great way to do that. The last thing I'll say is, right, the census is very important. We definitely want to make sure that everybody's counted, that everybody's heard. And so definitely tap into these resources, visit our site, be part of the process of creating demands. And again, this presentation will be shared on our website tomorrow. And so definitely check out our website to get that. And again, if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to us. But thank you all for being on this webinar tonight. We're going to close up the chat for this evening. Definitely stay tuned for upcoming convenings. I know there's going to be a Black Census Week at the end of March, so stay tuned for that. There'll be articles published, different more resources, and so there's a plethora of opportunities at your disposal. Take care and have a great night.